Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege as the mayor to officially convene this city council meeting and welcome all council representatives present with us and members of the public as well. We'll officially declare this meeting called to order at 6:01 p.m. We would thereafter begin with our roll call. I would invite our city clerk to carry that out for us.
Okay. Andy Wilson.
Present.
Jason Daly.
Here.
Joe Shy.
Present.
Mike Parsons.
I have not gotten any word from Mike. Any other word on that? So, absent an excuse, his absence would be unexcused. We would need to submit that in form of a motion, however. So, would there be a member of the council who would so move?
I'll make a motion that I'm not exactly sure what the word would
Well,
be.
just that his absence be considered unexcused.
That his absence be considered unexcused.
Okay, the motion has been submitted to the council. As noted, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded. Okay, by Mr. Daly. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion is carried. All right, may proceed.
Okay. Ruth Creer
Present.
and Mayor Smith.
Also present. So we do have a functioning quorum, so we will proceed now with our Pledge of Allegiance. Would invite all to please rise. And Jason, will you do the honor, please?
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, let's now proceed with the mayor's report. I can report that McMurphy Park has been officially closed for the winter. And probably just in the nick of time, there have been individuals who've been doing wheelies and other such things down there. And
I go down there every day and I just seen the wheelers
Yeah.
that been down there.
yeah, so with rainy conditions, we think the timing is right. So I hope that helps.
Ken, when does it open back up?
It would be probably in early April, more or less, depending on the weather. I wanted to inform the council members that we've been informed that there is going to be a pre-flood preparation meeting. And did we give the council members notice of that?
No, we gave them everything else. Then.
Yeah, okay. Oh, here it is. Got it. It's scheduled for Thursday, November 3rd at 9 a.m. It goes from 9 to noon, and it would be at the Veterans Memorial Museum. In years past, we have sent representatives there. My schedule won't allow for me to be there. And our city employee, John, has indicated that he has gone before and doesn't feel the need to attend. So I wanted to inform the council, if any of you were interested in attending that meeting, November 3rd at 9 a.m. at the Veterans Memorial Museum.
Can I get a copy of that later on?
Yes, absolutely. And we'll make sure we get a copy. So feel free to attend that. We wanted to make sure that the council was aware that because of the issue involving the street lights, that we indicated that we would get in touch with PUD and give them a list of lights, and you should know that they have been responding to that, and they've been out working on all the lights on the list and are making good headway. Do you happen to know where they're at in the total list?
No.
But they're out and about and they're fixing them.
There's the sensors out on that line from the Doug.
I told them again. I told them on Tuesday or Wednesday. I talked to them again and told them about that again.
Yeah.
So they're going to check it again.
Yeah, they're complicated. You would think it would be something as simple as replacing a light bulb, but it's not. There are a number of elements in it involved, and so,
It's just that sensor up on top. It's the same kind of light that I have on my garage.
okay. Well, keep your eye on it, and if it doesn't get fixed, then let us know.
I'll lend them one, but I'm not climbing that pole.
Well, if you do, we want to record that for history.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Land use the last.
In your last official act. Okay, and that concludes my report at the moment. So do we have council members who'd like to make a report of any sort?
I've had a couple people from the community come to me for different things. One was the neighbor at Warden Park was wondering if we were going to have a curfew on that park. I guess there's been some late night activities over there that's been keeping him awake.
We've discussed curfew on previous occasions throughout the years, and it's never been considered feasible or enforceable. It's really a tricky deal in today's world.
However, the park is closed at dusk. Officially, according to city ordinance, the parks are both closed at dusk.
Yeah.
So any activity that's going on there is not,
But you can't call it a curfew, though.
no, it's not a curfew, but I'm just saying that the park is technically closed, but we don't have any way to lock it.
Yeah.
So,
And it's really difficult when it's dark,
Yeah.
at 5.
It is. Yeah. But anyway, okay, you noted.
Another thing I was supposed to ask is, are there any stipulations on garbage cans? I guess Jeff, the garbage man, has been kind of in a argument with one of my neighbors about the size of their garbage can, and it's the same one that I happen to have, and several people around town I know have. Is there some kind of size limit that?
Yep.
And weight?
Weight.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is. I can look it up, I don't know it off the top of my head, but we can look it up.
Okay.
Yeah, if he wanted to be a stickler about it, he could probably enforce it. Because, but I know he wants to please the residents as
I
much as he
think
can.
mostly it's the weight problem, the weight issue. So if he didn't say anything like that to her about the weight, it was just the particular can.
Is that right?
Yeah, so,
Well, he does have a billing strategy. If there is excess weight, does he not? That he could charge $4 more or something.
He
So-
does.
That's, okay.
I know he
So-
does for overflow. I'm not positive if it's charged, if the weight is included in that. We'll have to look at it and see how it's written. I don't remember exactly what it says, but
Well, they can put them in 2
Oh.
cans.
Yeah, just get the attention of the mayor. We got, sorry, we've got to remind the public on occasion.
Well,
This is a council meeting.
A lot of people must have had their garbage picked up because today when I made my daily tour, there's an awful lot of empty garbage cans just laying all over the street and everything else, all over.
Well, the wind.
yeah.
And I have a feeling it's going to get worse before the weekend is out.
At least the garbage was picked up.
Well, we should be reminded that it is a private entity and he controls his conditions with each of his clients, and that would be the residents. So I don't think, I would encourage those who have questions to contact him directly and ply him with those questions. Maybe it will get a response. Okay, you have his number in case the public would like to do that. Yeah, have him call City Hall and we can put him in contact with him. Any other comments? Hearing none, let's proceed then. We're ready now to consider the official approval of tonight's agenda.
I make a motion, we approve the city council meeting agenda for 10/12/2016.
Okay, Mr. Wilson has submitted a motion to approve the agenda as written. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second
Seconded by Mrs. Creer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion is carried. Now the minutes approval for the previous city council meeting of September 22nd.
I will make a motion to approve the city council meeting of 9/22.
Okay, Mr. Wilson has asked for approval through a motion to approve the previous city council meetings as written. We have a second.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. David. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion is carried. Voucher approvals. Hopefully you've had a chance to review the vouchers for the previous month.
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers for the 1st of October 2016 in the amount of $24,096.35.
I second
Okay, you've heard the motion submitted by Mr. Scheid, and I heard a second for that motion by Mr. Wilson. All in favor say aye.
it.
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion has been approved. Now we're ready for our special reports. It's that time of month for our sheriff's report. And we would turn the microphone over to Deputy Cheeseman.
September was pretty quiet. One of the things, you had 24 calls, and out of the 24 calls, apparently the scam artist must have got the Vader phone book, because a whole bunch of them called with the IRS scam. I don't know whether you heard that or not.
Oh,
But yeah, so we had quite a few calls of people, and luckily nobody bought into the IRS scam, even though I guess this gentleman that was on it was pretty forceful. So that was the big deal there. We had 293 contacts. We had 24 calls and 18 traffic stops. On the criminal side of the deal, we did have a malicious mischief to the park, which we did catch some juveniles, and that is being processed. And then we had a domestic violence assault that was a mandatory arrest, and that one was taken care of too. So
okay.
so those are the two things we had.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Any thoughts or observations?
Thank you for this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that makes it easy.
Okay. Just so you're aware, we have been working with the Sheriff's Department regarding that malicious mischief and the fallout and ramifications of that hooliganism. We have now established the loss total. It's an estimate for it. And we'll continue to work with the Sheriff's Department and working with the family involved. And so we're still in the process of that. And if you'd like some additional feedback or information regarding the direction of that, I'd be more than happy to talk to you outside of this public meeting. Okay. All right. With that, then let's. Our next presentation is by Mrs. Ruth Allison, who's with the Human Response Network.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I am Ruth Allison. I am the current treasurer for the Board of Directors of Human Response Network. And we appreciate you taking the time to recognize October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Over the years 2014 to 2015, we saw a whopping increase of occupancy in our shelter of 92%. We had an increase in crisis hotline calls of 89%. And our budget went up by 1.2%. Currently, we are turning away requests for shelter at approximately 2 per day. Our shelter is too small. We've recognized that. We are implementing a plan to look at either building or relocating to a larger facility. And that is really a problem here in Lewis County. I don't know if it's just a better measurement of our records, but there definitely has been an increase in the need for domestic violence shelter and services. We also provide the services for sexual assault for the county. We're the only accredited agency to do that. So with that, I'll turn to the proclamation. I understand that you prefer that I read it.
Yes.
Okay, so the proclamation reads, whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month is intended to draw attention to the fact that domestic violence is widespread and impacts every community member of the city of Vader, and whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity due to the systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control and/or abuse, and whereas the problem of domestic violence is not confined to any group or groups of people, but crosses all economic, racial, gender, educational, religious, and societal barriers, and is sustained by societal indifferences. And whereas we must work together to educate our community about domestic violence prevention, supporting survivors, and speaking out against harmful attitudes and actions, victims should have help to find compassion, comfort, and the help they need, and domestic abusers should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. And whereas with leadership, dedication, and encouragement, there is evidence that we can be successful in preventing domestic violence in Lewis County through increased education, awareness, and community involvement. And whereas the Human Response Network is the recognized, accredited service provider for domestic violence advocacy services for the citizens of Lewis County, it reads, now therefore I, Kenneth D. Smith, Mayor of the City of Vader, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2016 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Vader, Washington. We ask that community members recognize the serious impact of domestic violence and to support and embrace the significant role each of us can play in the prevention of domestic violence. Signed, sealed, and dated this 13th day of October 2016. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Allison. Very well done.
Got a question there.
Oh, Ruth, we have a
Yes.
question.
Ruth, you said 2 get turned around every day. Is there other places that in Lewis County that can help them, or?
For the shelter, what we do, we work with every other agency in the county. Sometimes we will place people in hotels if we need to. We will provide tickets to other cities, other states, if they have family members that can help them out. And we do work with Reliable and other places as well. I just found out when I went to the Napavine City Council that there's a new shelter for men and women, because we do deal with both. Both can be victims. But it's a cold weather shelter, so they have to meet a criteria of being below 38 or 39 degrees before they can open. So as the winter comes on, we do see increased requests for services, because a lot of the people out there that are homeless due to domestic violence. So I'm hoping that that's another avenue we can pursue as well.
So I did a little research here, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And I couldn't find anything on the statistics for men, but it says 3 women die every day from domestic violence. Do you happen to know what it is for men? Or
I do not, and part of the problem with the statistics for men is women have typically been the victims, and society is really only just now starting to recognize that men are victims as well. But I will be looking into that. That's a very good question for next year. I will watch for that. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question as well. Where is your facility located?
Okay, well, the shelter is a secure shelter, so we don't give that out.
Oh, okay.
But our office is located on Chehalis Avenue. It's right beside the Eugenia Center, if you're familiar with it, just down a couple blocks from the Chehalis Deli, right across from the Public Health Department.
Oh, yes. Okay, gotcha. All right. Thank you.
How many does your shelter house?
Our shelter is 5 bedrooms. One of the things that we came across not too long ago was we had 5 women and 11 children in this shelter. And it really causes issues because everybody comes from a different background, and having that many kids together in one shelter. Like I said, we want to build a shelter or find something that would house our office along with the shelter, and have them be, instead of a house with different bedrooms, have almost apartment-like or hotel-like facility. So each family has their own area.
Interesting. Well, that's a wonderful service, and I'm privileged to be able to sign that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, with that, then let's proceed now with our public comment, if there are any who have signed up.
We have one person, Holly Sword.
Okay.
I want to thank the Sheriff's Department, the deputy that came out the other night and the other younger deputy were very competent and very compassionate, and I appreciate that. And they explained to me the reason of curfew, or not a curfew, but a closing date time would help on the park is it gives them a reason to stop and ask somebody who's in the park in the dark, why are you here? Which they don't have now. So, okay, I'm gonna just express myself the best I can on this. A couple of weeks ago, you came home and you found out that somebody smashed glass all over your kid's basketball court. They ripped down the backboard. They wrote obscenities in your restroom. And on the picnic tables where your family has picnics. The worst thing was they went and they desecrated and tore up, I'm sorry Ruth, I have to get this off my chest, a tiny memorial park you had put in your yard for a little boy that was cruelly killed in this town. They smashed his statues, they demolished the bird baths, and for some reason they had something really against St. Francis of Assisi. I don't know, but there wasn't more than 2 inches of the poor statue left. This tore open wounds that were pretty bad and pretty deep. So when we call it hooliganism and vandalism, we're not doing justice to it. The other thing I want to express, yes, you've all figured out that I'm talking about the park. That is your property. That's the property of everybody in this town. It's also the property of the moms and dads who have one car or no car, like my neighbor. They can't drive anywhere else, but they can put their toddler in the stroller and they can go down and enjoy the park. And the kids after school can ride their tricycles and bikes around the park. And that is our property. It's your property, it's my property, it's everybody out there, including the people who don't have any other options to get out of the apartment but that park. This time, when these individuals come up for justice, we're not going to be, I pray, on the catch and release policy. Yes, they should be forgiven. Yes, they should be given another chance after they have paid the penalty for their actions, which would probably be the very best thing that could happen to them, because the viciousness of what they did was inexcusable. And we have to have a policy in Vader. Vandals are prosecuted in Vader. Vandalism is prosecuted in Vader, period. And we have to get a reputation of that if you commit vandalism in Vader, you will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Very well said. Appreciate the civility and yet the intensity of the message. Yes, Richard.
If we can catch these vandals, it should be publicized all over the city, and maybe it'll wake some of them up, period. This is getting ridiculous, a lot of this stuff.
A little footnote, and forgive me for making this, but if we get in the habit of driving past the park, we don't have to get out, but just the constant driving past. And Red Apple Electric has arranged to put up lights, another volunteer thing. We've had many wonderful volunteers that have done a lot in the park, but they're running out of patience with this money and time.
Well, I can inform the council, this public meeting, that the city has engaged in new security measures at that facility. And if you'd like to know what they are, I'd be more than happy to share it with you after this meeting. And we have identified the individuals in this case, and we are working, and the family involved is determined to prosecute and throw whatever legal remedies are available to the city. So they have been identified, spoken to, and they're willing to embrace whatever accountability is deemed appropriate. But they are minors, and I could give you their ages, but that would be inappropriate. And we're not talking about old teenagers here. So there's always elements in every situation, as grievous as it might be. These are always tricky, and I'm sure the Deputy Cheeseman would affirm that. But we are going to send a message to the family and those youth involved. I would be more than happy to brief the council members outside of this context of this meeting.
I have a question, please.
Yes.
Jill, you mentioned that the parks are closed at dusk. Do we have signs up saying that?
I know there are signs at McMurphy Park. I'm not sure if there are any signs at Worden Park. I don't recall seeing
remember
any,
seeing
but
it. Mhm.
I don't.
That would be something we could install.
Murphy Park has been pretty good after we locked the gates, but before we locked the gates, we've already had squealers down there.
Yeah. Okay, well then, with that, thank you again for the public comment. We'll proceed now with our city business. The first order of business, item 1, is to conduct a public hearing. So at this particular moment in time, as much as it's a public hearing, I would put to the council meeting in recess, and we would proceed with a public hearing, and the council could determine, I believe, the length that you feel would be appropriate on this topic. And it has to do with the 2017 property tax levy. So I would invite the council to come up with what they feel is an appropriate period of time. I think that would be standard operating procedure to take on this. And then we would invite individuals from the public to share their observations about proposals for the property tax in 2017. Is the council here to set a time frame for this public hearing?
How many people are signed up to speak at the public hearing?
0.
How many people would like to speak at the public hearing about property tax levies?
Depends on what's said about the property tax levies.
So this is a discussion to hear from the public, not
Yes.
necessarily to discuss amongst ourselves.
This is a required public hearing prior to any city council action on the proposed 2017 budget. We have to engage in it. So my experience is that usually within 5 to 10 minutes, you've heard most everything from the public that would be applicable to the topic. But that's just an estimate.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that we just need to set a time limit for how long each person's allowed to speak. Isn't that what it is supposed to be for? Because an executive session is the one that you have to set a time frame and have to end at a certain time.
Yeah.
But the public hearing, it's more about how many people you have and how long you want. You know, if we had 50 people here, you might want to say, okay, how much, do we want to give them 30 seconds or do we want to give them each 5 minutes? Depending on how long you want the hearing to be.
My experience is that if you don't set a time frame, the council itself may want to provide commentary, and my experience is that you set for a time frame. I understand executive sessions, and that's a requirement. But I'm just going on experience. I don't know if it's statutorily stated anywhere. But understanding how sensitive property taxes are in each budget, it does take some. You could operate that way, identifying council, because the council is not making decisions at this moment in time.
It's just to hear what the public's opinion is about property taxes at this point. We will be having a workshop before the next council meeting You guys have your calendars in front of you. I think it's on the 27th. We have a workshop at 5 o'clock, and that's probably where I would anticipate council would be discussing what they've heard from the public, and then what what options there are, and at that point.
Well, perhaps it would be appropriate, we've engaged in it, we've started it, so maybe
The
we
public
could...
hearing is supposed to start with a motion. A motion to start, a motion to end.
All right, well, then I guess we better make it official. And so I would suggest that we establish a time.
So we could say 3 minutes a person, not to exceed 12 minutes. And if we end it sooner than that, then
All
fine.
right, that would be perfect.
Okay. I make a motion to start the public hearing on property tax levies and give each individual 3 minutes, not to exceed 12 minutes in total for the meeting.
Heard the motion submitted by Mr. Shy to initiate our public hearing regarding property taxes, and with conditions so specified. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Daly. All in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, hearing none. Well, now we will consider this public hearing officially open at 7:10 or 6:31. Okay. So my thinking was that perhaps we could invite our city clerk to spell out just what it means and what potential options are available to the council on this topic as it relates to our 2017 budget. What is the current property tax? And I know she's prepared a document for your consideration.
There were some of these available for the public as well on the table, if you guys want to see those. This tax levy 2017.
Sure.
So the tax levy rate is very complicated, and I don't understand all of it, but what I can express to you is that for the year 2016, the tax levy rate was set so that the city would receive $70,266.01 if everybody paid their property taxes they were supposed to. That will remain the same for 2017 if the council does nothing, or if the council chooses to do no increase, the amount will stay the same at the same rate. Each city has the ability, each city of our size, under 10,000, has the ability to increase their property tax levy rate up to 1% every year. Any amount that we don't increase, so like if we only increased it 0.5% one year, then that other 0.5% that we could have goes into what's called banked capacity. So basically we can save it up. So if we choose not to increase the taxes for 3 years in a row at 1% each, that means at the end of that third year we'd have 3% banked that we could use in the future if we wanted to. Does that make sense? So I have kind of an explanation here on your sheet of kind of a fictional example city just to kind of show you how that whole banking process works. And then down below, actual for Vader, you'll see that over the past 5 years, we have increased the property tax 1%. We've done that 3 different years. 2 years, the council has chosen not to increase the property tax at all. I have the banked capacity listed right now at 7.01%, and that is an estimate. I haven't got the actual numbers from the county yet, so I can't verify. Last year's number showed us a little bit higher than that, but my records, I can't verify what's accurate until I get it from the county, probably later this month or the first part of November, I hope. So down at the very bottom, it just kind of gives you an idea of what the options are. Again, you'll see the 2017 base levy amount. If we don't do anything, as a council don't make any changes to the tax levy rate, the amount we would receive is $70,266.01. Just to let you know, 78% of that goes into our current fund or our general budget for general administration, law enforcement, parks, not streets, 78%, and then the other percent is 22%. 22% of it goes into the street budget, and that's for street repairs and maintenance. So that's how city has chosen up till now to split up that money. Council can, at any budget season, choose to change that around, but that's where it's sitting right now. That's the way council has set it in the past, and that's where you're sitting right now. So if you guys wanted to split it 50-50, you could. However, you'd have to figure out how to come up with the money to cover the expenses in the current fund. So at this point, that's where you're at. You see the second column at the very bottom says the allowed increase for a year is 1%, so that would be approximately $702.66. I only say approximately because the levy amount is never set in stone until after the first of the year. And we never know exactly. That's because the assessor's office is still assessing the value of the properties in our community, and that doesn't get finalized exactly until after the first of the year. And so we won't know exactly what that 1% is until then. But our bank capacity at 7% is $4,900. And then if we were to use everything that we have banked plus our 1% for this year, we could see an increase in property tax revenue of $5,628.
Okay. We did have a comment from the public, and so feel free, Mr. Goff.
Do I need to get up there or just?
No, Bob raised his hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
I thought you were
No,
pointing.
go ahead, I'll go
Yeah.
after you.
Go ahead, Bob.
My question is our sewer rates going up this year? Because the reason you didn't increase it last year was because our sewer rate went up.
Well-
Is our sewer rate going up this year?
That's
That
not
would
up
be
for me to
determined
decide.
factor.
the council will be deliberating that in the next weeks
Can you
ahead.
answer me, is our sewer rate going up?
I don't make that decision. The council decides that.
No, I mean on your scale that we did last year, on how it showed on paying the 450,000, you were showing that by 2017, we would have to pay this amount to pay the loan back.
Do you want me to answer those kind of questions?
No, let
in
me
this?
handle it too.
Okay.
This public hearing needs to be focused on the property tax topic. So that's what it's about. But that question regarding sewer utility rates will come up in future council discussions on the budget. But they haven't met.
Didn't you not raise this tax last year, the percent, because our sewer rate went up? That's why I'm asking that question. It doesn't have anything to do with the levy, but it
No.
had something to do with the last year you not raising it because of the sewer rate.
But your question was, are the sewer rates going to be raised this year?
Because of the fact that if it was, then that would be something you have to consider before you even say when we want to raise it 1%, to help the residents not having increases in their,
Well, I hope the council understands that question, but they don't equate. I mean, obviously, if you raise one rate, it would impact the residents on the property tax rate, if you want to raise that too. But this topic is to be confined to the property tax issue. Whether or not the council is in charge of all financial matters and related to the city. So I know they haven't engaged in the budget discussion yet about the 2017 waste or utility rates. So, but yes.
If you would like to contact City Hall at other time other than this meeting, you can be provided with the projection document that I think you're referring to.
I have that projecting document.
Okay.
But just because it's projected doesn't mean that it's automatic. I
understand that.
Okay, that's good. And then,
But you wouldn't put it down unless it was a consideration when you...
well, for sure. The state actually expects cities, especially like ours, that are engaged in trying to find an alternative. If you don't meet a certain level of waste treatment rates, you won't qualify for funding sources. So, yeah, I mean, the city would prefer not to raise any rates, I'm sure, with such things, but that's not based in any fiscal reality. But here again, this is to be a public hearing on the property tax issue. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Mayor, if I understand correctly then, if you do raise property taxes by 1%, how many homes are in Vader that actually pay taxes? I know we have 700 residents, but how many homes
Yeah.
are actually paying taxes so that we can understand how much at 1%, if you're gonna raise 1% on 70,000, that's an extra 7,000.
Yeah.
How many homes are equated into that to let us know approximately how much our taxes are gonna go up?
Yeah, we have that information. That's a good question.
1% is 700.
Oh, 700, 10% of 7,000, I'm sorry. So 700 divided, say you got 700 people, I don't know how many homes actually pay taxes, so we're talking a minimal amount at 1% per household.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that answers my question.
You're looking at like $1 per resident in the city,
Fantastic,
at 1%.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering.
Well, that's a very good question. Yeah, it's good to know that. But we have about, what, 228 residents, homes?
Well, that's our
But-
sewer hookups, but we have more
Yeah.
homes than that.
Sure.
It's in the high, I want to say it's in the high 200s. I haven't looked it up this year and I don't remember. I know I calculated that out last year and I didn't have it prepared
Yeah.
for tonight, but we can
Mhm.
find that out.
Okay,
Can you?
Yeah, yeah.
okay. So, but you can see if you increase it by 1%, that brings in an extra $700. You divide that by the 280 homes, it does come up to about $1.20 per year.
Very reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, we're not
And-
talking.
And more expensive homes will pay a higher percentage and, because it's based on the value of the property and the home. So,
And that doesn't come out from Lewis County. I was on the phone to them. I'm on a very fixed income, and I'm trying to get a reduction in my property taxes.
Yeah.
And they said it wouldn't be ready till after November 1st. They were going through their assessments at
Right.
this time.
right.
So I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We should note that we do have individuals who've applied to build in the city, and that's unusual. It's a good sign, because that would enhance the property tax revenue. Because this is, given the fact that we have so few business enterprises, which most cities rely on for general revenue, the only thing we're good at is property tax revenue. So normally, residential addresses don't generate revenue for cities. They are generally a cost to a community. But in our little village, it is the revenue source that we rely on to pave our streets and fix our parks and pay our employees. So anyway, that's good. Any other questions from the public? This is... How about a yay or nay, or stand
Nay.
up and, okay. You would be opposed to any property tax increase?
No, not necessarily at all. I was just curious of how much, I was speaking of, how much I'm thinking if I'm paying X amount of dollars now and that goes up by 10 or 15%, then that's gonna hurt me in the long run. 1% is acceptable. And like you said, in your coffers, if you haven't done it for 2 or 3 years, even at 3%, an extra $3 to $5 a month is acceptable. In my situation, I can't speak for everybody, but
Yeah,
in my situation, it's acceptable.
oh, okay. I think that's valuable for the council here. Should we solicit such a similar opinion from other residents present with us? Like Hallie or Bob, did you want to weigh in on?
Thank you.
I just have a question. I believe it or not, occasionally do not have an opinion because I don't know enough about a subject, and this is a good case. Isn't every structure that's a regular home paying taxes of some sort? Because you said those that were paying taxes, are there individual homes that are exempt from paying taxes?
Not heard of him.
churches?
Well, that's, yeah, that's,
Yeah,
that's,
it would be.
yeah, I'm thinking of a residential home. Okay,
There are some that may qualify for low income reduction.
Mhm.
There's some senior low income.
on the
that can-
taxes.
On the taxes. I'm not a, I don't, not a tax expert.
So it's everybody
but-
in town basically is gonna be paying whatever this increase is.
Mhm.
Well, pursuant to the contingencies in the motion, is there anybody else who would like to add something for the council's edification? Hearing none, have we exceeded the 12-minute or come close to it?
Yes.
Okay,
Uh,
yes.
I'm sorry. We had a comment, I'm sorry, from a gentleman in the public hearing, and I need to document it, but I don't have your name or any information.
My name is Joe LePage, capital L-E, capital P-A-G-E.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm relatively new to Vader. I just purchased a home on 8th and D Street, next door to Jason. Very happy to be here. I've only been here since January, late January, February. And like I say, I am a disabled vet on a fixed, very low fixed income. And any raises in my monthly bills affects me. So that's why I'm here this evening, to hear what's going on with taxes and such, and seeing how the city council works.
Excellent. Good. You need anybody else?
I
Okay.
know everybody else's name, so thanks.
Okay, very good. Well then, absent any objections from members of the council, I would declare this public hearing closed at 6:47 p.m. Okay. And with that, I would proceed to item number 2, the council to consider the recommendation for filling the park board vacancy. I trust that you've gotten a copy of the letter that I've prepared. This is the last opening in our park board, so with the council's action, we would be fully restaffed. And this individual has approached myself and volunteered to occupy this position. It's, as you can tell in the letter, is Kelly Shy, who happens to be related to Joe.
She is related to me.
Yes,
Is she
Mrs. Shy,
related to you, Joe?
Yes. She's my wife.
by marriage.
Well, I didn't know if it was your grandmother or who.
Oh, we're not going to repeat that one outside of this room.
Quiet in the council chambers. Oh, I can't wait to pound that gavel once. But thank you for, yes, I've come to know Mrs. Shy and highly respect her, and of course her husband, who serves the city so well. Mrs. Shy is a very talented individual, and full of energy, has a family, and is concerned about the parks. She's reliable and dependable, and I believe would be a valuable influence on that particular board. With her perspective, she's young and has some motivation there to improve the parks. So I would submit her name to you for your consideration. Would await council action. Oh, she wanted to be here, but she is not feeling well, I gather. And so once again, we're asking you to consider a person who is not present with us. So I apologize for that. We have a comment from.
I've actually met this person.
Oh, have you? Okay, well, that's positive. Do you want to entertain a comment from the public?
Yes.
Kelly Shy has a marvelous sense of humor. She has balance. She's very talented. She can get along with people. And I think she would be an absolute plus to any board, especially the park board. And I've worked with her and I know her.
Thank you for that supportive commentary. I suspect suspect that Mr. Shy is recusing himself from the nomination or motion making process.
It had crossed my mind.
So I would look to the left of the council for your action, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we fill the last seat on the bar board with Ms. Kelly Shy.
Okay. All right, Mr. Daly has submitted a motion to approve the nomination of Ms. Kelly Shy to fill the last vacancy on that board. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mrs. Creer. All righty. With that, all in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that vote was unanimous. Thank you very much for that, and we will get her sworn in. You should know that we've tried to orchestrate a park board meeting this coming Saturday to accommodate the schedule of one of the park board members, and we're not successful. Plus, given the weather, there were concerns about it, so we're trying to schedule a meeting now for the 22nd of October, which would be Saturday at 3:30. Just so you know, if any of you would like to be present at that. Plus, Mr. Crone couldn't make it either on this coming Saturday. So with that, let's proceed to item number 3. The council to consider emergency preparedness option. This has been on the agenda for several council meetings. If you recall, Mrs. Dossie Wilson came, and we downscaled it to scheduling a date at some point in the future when we would advertise and invite all Vader residents to come here and hear her presentation. It would be a one-time shot, and the need to become prepared in case of Cascadia fault event or earthquake event of some sort. So in my last conversation with her, I told her that the council would be deliberating tonight and picking a date for that. And to be candid with you, my feeling is that the council has its hands full with budgetary items and workshops and such regarding our budget for 2017. And I told her that, and she's willing to embrace this, and maybe the council would consider a date in sometime in early 2017 for her to come. But that, just to throw that out there for your consideration. So,
I think that's smart for everybody, because, you know, for the public to come between now and Christmas is really
probably.
kind of iffy, so.
Okay. Would the other council members kind of be supportive of that concept? Because if you are, then I would look at the calendar and work with Mrs. Wilson, who lives up in the Grimlock area, and with city clerk, and we pick a date and then bring it back to you in our next council meeting
Yes.
for your passage. Okay, then let's handle it that way. I don't think we need a motion for it, so we'll get back with you on that. Thank you for that action. Well, now we're down to item 4. Council to consider resolution 16-2016 that relates to surplus office/electronics equipment. I believe you have in your packets the documents that related to that resolution, and would invite the council action.
I move to approve Resolution 16, 2016, a resolution of the City of Vader, Washington, providing for the disposal of certain inventory items deemed to be surplus for reasonably foreseeable future and immediate necessity.
Okay, Mr. Daly submitted a motion as read. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second it.
It's been seconded. And now is your opportunity to provide additional commentary, thoughts, concerns regarding it. You'll note on the back the items in question. We're not talking about a great deal of items here. So, any other commentary from the council? Going once, twice. Hearing none, let's put the matter to a vote. All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. Thank you for that action. I would like, at the conclusion of this topic, to know, inform the council, I forgot to mention it in my mayor's report, that if you weren't aware, we are in the midst of our audit. They are here, and they've been here for over a week, and they will be coming, they won't be here tomorrow, but they'll be coming back Wednesday of next week. And feel confident that they will conclude by mid next week as well, Wednesday or Thursday probably. So send some positive thoughts heavenward. It all seems to be going well, and it involves inventory as a part of that. So I felt it was appropriate to bring that to your attention on this item. So with that, let's proceed to item 5. Council to consider Resolution 17-2016, which is the contract with North Fork Asphalt Paving, which I know Mr. Shai explained to you in our last council meeting. So this is your opportunity to approve the contract that has been discussed. And is necessary before we can proceed with paving of 10th Street. So with that, I will turn this time over to the council for appropriate action.
So I'm looking at this, we're approving them to spend up to 25,000 on the streets.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's what the bid came in at, and that's the bid that you guys approved.
So, yeah,
For clarification,
yes.
approximately 10,000 of that is from funds that's allotted from the state down through the Department of Transportation. The county holds it for the city, and then when the city's ready to use it, we apply to their committee and they release it. Anyways, we have about a little more than $10,000 in there. So about 10,000 of those funds, they're called STP funds, would be coming from that fund. And then the other 15,000 is already budgeted for in the city's budget for this year. And so that's why we kept it at that limit, and we found out how much we could get done, or Joe found out how much we could get done for that budgeted amount that the city's already allotted money for. So this is just, you guys approved the bid at the last council, and that this was the most for bang for our buck, and so this is just the contract that's put together. The contractor has approved it, our attorneys approved it, the insurance company, everyone and their dog has looked at it and approved it. We're just waiting for council to get the mayor authorization to sign.
If you don't do it, then we won't be able to get it done. And he picked a date. He would love to have been able to do it yesterday.
Yes.
But without this approval, we can't act on it. So Mother Nature is now imposing her rainy will on us. So we have to wait for the next dry phase, hopefully before it gets too cold.
Did we go over the streets that were going to be impacted by this last meeting?
Yes, it's in the contract as well.
Yeah.
It's mainly 10th Street from approximately Alpine Court down to, is it E Street? Is that correct, Joe?
Yeah, all the way down to
E, yes, approximately that's. And that's the top priority on our 6-year transportation list, so it made sense to focus on that one. And
it's around 1,150 feet long.
What street is that?
10th.
10th
You know where
Street.
Donna Rogers lives?
Yeah.
That's that. It's in
10th Street,
all the way down to the end of it. So it's a basic pavement / gravel is what it's doing, potholes.
And it didn't qualify, that section of street didn't qualify for any of the grant funding that we've been working on through the Transportation Infrastructure Board, or whatever that's called. And so that's why we focused on using what the city has saved up over several years to do that.
Okay. We do have a question.
Is anybody allowed to speak or ask a question?
Just get the mayor's attention.
I'm sorry.
Because I moderate the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Would the council care to hear? Sure. Go for it.
Yeah.
Yes, my question is what you're gonna do on 10th Street, is it the same that all the other streets have been done, a chip and seal?
No.
It'll be asphalt? Because I've noticed, I walk a lot, and I noticed that there's a lot of the streets that have already been chipped and sealed are already coming undone. Potholes, big holes, several streets that were just chipped and sealed are already coming to ruin.
Yeah.
And that's only a matter of what, a month and a half, 2 months ago, 3 months at the most?
But it's the other parts of the street that are gonna,
I understand, 10th Street, but it'll be asphalt instead of chip and seal.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
You know, the chip sealing is not a long-term permanent fix, but it's better than it was.
Absolutely.
In some
But
respects.
this is gonna be 4-inch asphalt.
Yes.
Well,
it is.
2 inch.
Well, but a 2 inch is standard. And
2
it will-
inch?
They'll prepare the subsurface and it will be very good. They've done excellent work in the past. So this will be definitely an improvement.
Thank you for recognition.
You bet.
And the chip seal work, by the way, was free to the city.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, you don't want to look too deep into that gift horse's mouth. And Joe Scheid orchestrated all of that. He did a great job, I thought, with the council's support. So we're awaiting action. Mhm.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 17, 2016, the resolution of the city of Vader, Washington, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract agreement for asphalt paving with North Fork Asphalt Paving Company.
Okay, thank you for that motion. As you noted by Mrs. Creer, to approve resolution 17, 2016. Do we have a second for that
I
motion?
second it.
Seconded by Mr. Wilson. Any other concern? Questions? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. We will set that in motion. Okay. Item number 6. Report on the wastewater treatment facility plan update project. Well, this is going to be on every council meeting. The parties involved, Civil West, are acting consistent with the timetable that they've indicated, and everything appears to be proceeding as calendared. And so that would be my report. Any questions, concerns on that line? With that, hearing no questions, I would proceed with item number 7.
Well, I do have a question. I read
Okay.
this today,
Mm-hmm.
and part of the requirements is that we, redo our lagoons. On page 2, it says right here that the required lagoons to be double lined and wind protected. It's gonna estimate 1.5 to 2 million. That's right on top of everything, or?
Well, I don't think that you should consider anything on this alternative to be final yet. They're still in the...
What you're looking at, which one are you looking at?
The Civil West.
There's 2 from Civil West. There is a kickoff meeting notes, and there's a monthly projected plan. Okay, all this is just somebody at the last meeting wanted to see the minutes from that kickoff meeting that we had, and this is just what we talked about. Just
Oh, okay.
for some of the things that we discussed at the beginning, and some of the topics and some of the goals and priorities. So, that nothing in here is documented or is part of the proposal. And the monthly status report is just what the engineer will be giving us every month, just to give you an update on what they've been working on this month and kind of how far along they are, how much money they've spent so far, that kind of stuff, just for your information to keep you up to date. The engineer did say that he is planning in the next month to month and a half coming to a council meeting and talking to you directly about what they've found so far and kind of where they're at, and make sure they're going in the right direction that you guys want them to, and to get everybody up to speed. But this is just to keep you in the loop and let you know that we're still working on it and they're moving along.
Yes. I still get very good vibes from them, and they seem to be doers, not just talkers. Okay, we did have an individual present who wanted to ask a question, I presume. Council defer to Mr. Goff.
I'm gonna make a comment. I was at that meeting, one meeting, and I was very concerned about what was gonna happen, and after their talk and everything else, and then reading this too, I think this is the very best option for the city of Vader, because they don't have to go through the oxidation ditch, which I was completely frustrated with. And I like the way they presented it,
Thank you for that.
and I'm all for this plan.
Okay, good. I think you'll be, I think you'll, I don't know if you're going to enjoy the meeting when they come to present, because they're going to come at the 50% phase and the 90% phase, and they're going to brief you on where they're at and what's happening, and I think you're going to enjoy their report. So, like Jill indicated, they have a date set. Did we get to the...
It was later in November.
Yeah, so it's coming up, not that far off. So in order for them to meet that date, they're going to have something report, tangible for them. So hang in there. All right, then now, Mr. Goff.
I was wondering about the urgency of our side sewer. Nothing's ever been brought up about it. The changing of the side sewer, that's all on the wayside now? Nothing's happening there? The side sewer replacement that we did?
Yeah, it's completed.
It's completed.
That's it? Nobody else is getting side sewer replacement?
Not at the...
Yeah, at this
not
point.
yet, but... yeah.
So we're not doing anything about it? What are we doing?
I think what Mr. Goff maybe is getting at is that originally when we started the side sewer, we said, okay, this is the first part of the side sewer. This money is just for people who meet the certain eligibility requirement for household income,
Right.
but that there will be additional phases going on in the future with addressing the other side sewer owners in the community. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think, if I understand correctly, part of what this, we weren't anticipating this part of the sewer improvement to address side sewers, but it looks like it will be now. And so once we get this plan put together, then we'll know if we need to move forward with the original plan we had of getting funding and replacing side sewers, or they're possibly going to offer an alternative to that. So it will be addressed, it's just not being addressed in exactly the same time frame that we thought it was going to be. So we need to kind of wait and see what the numbers come out as this facility plan, because the facility plan they're working on, that none of the other engineers have ever addressed the side sewers. And so this group is saying, yes, let's look at the side sewers because that's a huge problem, and they may be providing other options for us beside what we were originally expecting to do.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to wait and see how this turns out and see if there's another alternative. If not, if whatever they're working on doesn't pan out to affect the side sewers and council decides not to do that, then we'd probably go back to the original plan, I would think. So, but it's all up in the air right now. So it's not been stopped. It's just we're waiting to see what next step we
But we're
should
gonna
take.
have to change our side sewers because of the I&I.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
So, to me, why don't we go forward with that and make, because you said that Kathy had some other opportunities for grants and whatnot.
Sure.
I would like to move forward with that as a homeowner here. I don't wanna wait for,
You'd have to talk to council about that. I'm just explaining to you where we are. I didn't make that decision. I'm just trying to explain where we're at.
Well,
So,
in the last I
Okay,
heard, we were
excuse me.
changing side
Yeah,
sewers.
but we don't want to engage in it as a cross-examination here. I think the
It's a
question was,
discussion, not a cross-examination.
it is a council's meeting. And you've asked a question.
You asked
I
me
think
to speak, I'm speaking.
you were invited to share a question. The question was asked, it was answered. So the council could provide some commentary, but I think the answer was perfect. The site sewer project has, for those who met the income earnings requirements, has been completed. At that completion, then it became apparent that we wanted to look at other alternatives. As our city clerk has just explained to you, one of the alternatives may incorporate replacement of side sewers. So I think it's wise on the part of the council to act on this process. Civil West is going to make a proposal, which you'll hear about on the 15th of November. I think after we hear that proposal, it may be wise to ask that question again and make that observation. But now's not the time to engage in a cross-examination of the side sewers. This is a topic that relates to the wastewater treatment facility plan update report. Yes, that's it. So it's the council's meeting. Would the council have any other questions or observations about the topic at hand? Don't mean to talk you into silence. Okay.
But I do understand what Bob's saying.
Yeah, it's a good
There's no
question.
reason why we couldn't at least see if there's funding out there for it while, to get the grants in.
Not my phone.
I don't have that kind of phone. It's possible that our final solution for our sewer plan could have more side sewer work in it as well.
Right.
So,
Good.
But
Right. No. So my opinion would be that we just proceed because right now with the audit going on, with all of the work that our staff has to do, the mayor is going to be protective of our employees. I feel comfortable myself with the direction that the council is taking us in this facility. And I think that we're aware of the availability of the side sewer program. But to be candid with you, I am more than disappointed in the outcome of our previous effort in terms of making a difference in the amount of I&I getting into our waste treatment system. So I have mixed feelings about pursuing it at this moment in time. But I would, of course, bow to the direction and will of the council along those lines. So with that, any other thoughts on what's about to happen as far as the waste treatment update report? Well, let's proceed now with item number 7. Report on the response to the fire department, number 20 letter. I think the council has been monitoring the issue relating to Fire District 20.
they have not had time to read this most recent
How-
update. We might just tell them really quickly what it says. They have a copy of it, but
Yeah,
they just got it when they came in, so.
Mhm. Well, the upshot is that there have been fires within our community that have required investigation. And Fire District 20, I know, Mrs. Prayer, you could probably edify us with your involvement with Fire District 20 on this particular issue. And Fire District 20 has held the belief that the city of Vader should pay for the investigations that have taken place. One with the recent fire in the Quonset hut and the home next to it, and the residents up on 8th Street. So it's been an issue. We've deliberated back and forth, and we've gotten our city attorney's response back to it. And her response was, the result of that was this letter that we received yesterday, and from Rich Underdahl, the fire chief. And is it? It's pretty self-explanatory. But as it turns out, the fire district doesn't perform those services for the city of Vader. At Lewis County Fire District contracts with Lewis County, and so the city of Vader, as do other communities like ours, needs to work out an agreement with Lewis County officials. Now we have a fire marshal, he's our city inspector, and he is possibly able to serve as our fire investigation service provider. But so I think we're going to look into that.
Is he currently a fire investigator?
I don't believe that he is an investigator. No, I think to be perfectly clear, what we've come to find, we thought the fire district itself was paying for investigations that were happening outside the city limits, and we were maintaining, well, if they're going to pay for the ones outside, then they need to pay for the ones inside because we all pay the same tax rate. But what we've since learned from this letter from Chief Underdahl is that they do not pay for the investigative services for anybody. The county, under its purview as the building official for the county addresses, that means the people outside the city limits, they pay for their fire investigations, and so within the city, it would be the city's responsibility to pay for any fire investigations that were needed. So I think where it all got started is that somebody asked for a fire investigation service on behalf of the city, and the city was not aware of that and didn't authorize it, and so then there was a question about who should pay for it and who shouldn't. And so that's where this all got started. We've been trying to clear this up for a couple of years. I think we finally have it cleared up now that the city is responsible for any fire investigation that goes on within the city limits. However, the city is the only one who is authorized to call for a fire investigation because not every fire requires a fire investigation. So in that, we've learned that, and so what we are doing now is putting together options for the city to have fire investigation services. Either hire the county to do it or hire somebody else independently. We are asking our building official and fire marshal, Les Townsend, for his recommendation. And then we're also going to have communications with the county and see what our options are. And we will present that back to council once we know what our options are for fire investigation services.
Yes. Excellent explanation.
Well, this is what happens when we didn't stay with the county.
Well, but that's not really accurate, because that's where we went wrong in the first place, is that everyone thought that we had an agreement with the county for fire investigation services because we were using the county for building. But if you look at our contract, it did not include fire investigation services. And so that's where the confusion was. We never actually had the county's contract for investigation services. Everyone thought we did, but if you look back at the documentation, it says we didn't. And so whether they were acting correctly or incorrectly in the past under who should be doing it, doesn't really matter at this point. At this point, to move forward, the city is responsible and needs to have our own fire investigation services set up. The hard part is money has been spent in the past, and the city doesn't have the authority to spend money and pay somebody that we don't have a contract with. And so that's where I think the friction came from between the fire district and the city, is that the city, we didn't know anything about it. We haven't ever budgeted anything for it, at least since I've been here, because we weren't aware that that was something we needed to budget for. And somebody outside of the city called for an investigation and then sent us a bill of almost $6,000, and we don't have $6,000 laying around. And so there was a lot of friction there, and it was kind of a difficult situation. So, but at this point, we've realized that we do need to have something in place for that, so we can start budgeting for it if we need it, and that we have an appropriate contract in place so that we legally can pay, because the city cannot pay somebody that they don't have a contract or legal obligation with, so.
So let me make sure I understood the comment you made that the fire district doesn't have the right to call for a fire investigator?
All I know is that if the city has a contract with somebody, the only person we would authorize to give authority to call and spend money on that would be our own fire marshal. And at that point, we didn't have that in place. Somebody else called for the fire inspection without talking to the city about it.
All fire districts call for a fire investigator on structure fires.
But in our
That's-
case, they didn't contact the city,
Part of
I
our
gather.
job.
Pardon?
It's part of our job, and
Right, but they should have called the city, because if the city's responsible to pay for
well, I
that,
can guarantee you that all the other Lewis County fire districts do not stop and call their cities to call for a fire investigator.
I don't know. I'm just the messenger. I don't make, I'm just telling you what I've been told and how it's been explained to me.
Yeah,
I don't know what's correct or what's been done in the past or what hasn't.
well,
I just know when I got bills for $6,000 and said, we didn't authorize a $6,000 service,
well,
and
we didn't
then-
have a contract.
and then I gave it
So why would
to,
they?
and I talked to the attorney and says, they're saying that we have to pay this, but I'm not aware of, and I know we have to have a contract in place in order for us to pay another government entity, and we don't have any kind of a contract, so we were asking for a contract, and they provide us documentation that is not a contract. It's basically said, we will not provide this service for you. Then the city was under no obligation, and also the city doesn't have really the authority to spend the residents' money with somebody we don't have a contract with. So it was just it just was a mess, and it was a mess before, but nobody ever said anything about it. And so
Well, I
now
would be completely
we just need to get
worried
it
about
correct.
my own insurance if we didn't have this fire marshal.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
we do
And
have a
then
fire
the city would be
marshal.
responsible when it come right down to it and be sued by the property owners or the property owner's insurance because we didn't. I think this has to be a very good liability for the city to have it, one way or another.
Sure,
Mhm.
sure, that's
Period.
what we're trying to do.
Yeah. I've been on this job for 9 years, and we haven't had a fire marshal in at least those 9 years. And I suspect we would discover we haven't had a fire marshal probably for 100 years. Maybe I'm wrong, but we haven't had a fire where it's required an investigator. I mean, what does that happen? About once every 20 years, maybe? And so we've been dragging this city out of.
We had the fire right over here that had
Mhm.
required a fire investigator.
Is that right?
It was our investigation on
Oh,
Bailey's.
Yeah.
well,
First
maybe
night
I
there.
misunderstand that. I was thinking if there was a human life involved, but I suppose arson would require that. But to finish my point, I think we, in as much as we rely on novices, like we all are, we're unpaid, we don't have, and have not in the past, I think, had adequate legal counsel. We've been operating exposed like this. And so this is an opportunity for our community to drag ourselves into the 21st century and perform better. And it's, I know it's created a great discontent and discomfiture in the fire district, whom we appreciate and have supported. And I know we've been well served.
I think we should get right on the item.
Mhm. That's
Period.
what's happening. It's been slow, but there's been a lot of misunderstanding going on. And so communication is now, I think, giving us a direction. And we have our building inspector and he's indicated he's had fire marshal experience, I believe, of some sort.
Yes, fire marshal, but not fire investigator. That's
Right.
a
Yeah,
totally
well,
different
but he's a
thing.
fire
So
marshal.
are we gonna contract him for an investigator as a city? or-
That's what we understand at this point, that that's what we need to do. So that's why, like I said, we're checking into what our options are for fire investigation services. And hopefully by the next council meeting, we will have that, those options for council to review.
Yeah, see, all this has been ongoing the last 10 days with our city attorney working with us and with Mr. Underdahl. But I know that there's going to be some issue about the previous bill that I think our city clerk noted. And that, but I'm not sure just what the answer of that is going to be. If it came down to some legal entanglement, the absence of an existence of an agreed upon contract could be the issue at play there.
Well,
So-
and I think normally, if I understand it correctly, normally it's a non-issue because the insurance company pays for it, the homeowner's fire insurance or whatever. But in a couple of cases, we have many homes here that are not insured. And when there's no insurance, then it falls back on whoever is the entity that's in charge. And
This is sticky wicket, and
that's
it's
why it
complicated.
falls back on the city or whatever, so.
All right, well, so that's our report and our response to it. Okay. Any last observations or comments? Hearing none, then let's proceed with item number 8. Council to consider overweight vehicle and other street signs. This is obviously an ongoing agenda item. Anything?
If you want me to start with the other street signs real quick, I'll just give you a quick
Yeah.
report. The other street signs are the stop signs that we've been wanting to put up and the warning signs that there's a change. And we've been waiting for these that we've ordered back at the very end of August. And I finally made contact with them today and they apologized all over themselves that we don't have them yet and they're planning on getting them to us the early part of next week. However, our Public Works employee is out of town, well, he's on vacation until the 26th. So it will be the end of the month before we start seeing them go up. But we should actually have the product this next week for those. I know some of our members of the public were interested to know when that was going to happen. So our stop signs on D Street and over by the church will finally get to go up.
Okay.
Now, on to the other.
Any observations? Comments? Okay. Well, let's proceed with our last item, council to consider copy, fax, scanner contract. That's with Rico?
No, we need to do the rest of that topic,
Oh, the overweight
which
vehicle.
is the overweight vehicle
Okay,
signs.
gotcha.
Do you want me to explain
Yes.
that as well? Okay, so our ordinance states that we need to have appropriate signage in order to restrict the weight of vehicles on our limit on our streets. The first option you see with all the little circles along 7th Street are all the big circles and small circles represent where the attorney feels if we want to be 100% secure to put signs on every single one of those locations. So basically, anytime someone turns off of the highway, the highway can allow heavier weights, but anytime they turn off onto a side street, she says there should be a sign. And the mayor asked me to check with her and say, are you sure? Because that seems like an awful lot of signage. And she said, it's not required, but she says it's easier to defend in court if it's on every single street. She says, if you do like the second page and just put the signs in the locations where people come into town, that informs them that there are weight limits on the streets, and that if they're over that weight, that they need to check with City Hall. She said she can still defend that in court if needs be, but she said the first option is more easily defendable. But she says that doesn't mean you have to do that. It's just her recommendation. She says you can do what you want with it. So basically, it's just, does the city want to spend, enough money to put all the signs up, or do you want to call it good with the 4 locations, or somewhere in the middle? So we just need some direction so that we can put those signs up and be in proper compliance with our ordinance.
How about map B with a couple more added?
Go for it. It's up to you guys. You tell us where to do it. We'll do whatever you say.
Instead of 20. Right?
Did we give them, did we have a rough estimate of what the sign size would be?
The signs are, the signs themselves, I should have got a quote together, got the price, that would have been good. The signs themselves are going to be about $30 a piece. The posts cost like $50 for the posts. The posts are way more expensive than the signs. And then the cement to put them in the ground. And so, I think we're looking at somewhere around $100 per sign. Just a ballpark, rough estimate.
But the council might consider attaching a sign to a pre-existing pole, maybe, or would that be out of some violation?
We just don't, what poles are you talking
Well,
about?
there are some, like we've got several that are already fixed to posts.
We have
Like on D
2.
Street, and, there's one on D Street.
A weight limit?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you mean turning north on D Street?
Yes.
Yes, that's one of the
And
2.
there's one on the post and by the vacant field as you come down the hill.
And there's one heading east into town. So there's 3 altogether.
How often do we see overweight vehicles?
Well, the log trucks, but
I was gonna say logging trucks every day, and they're over 15 ton.
But they're on the state.
They're on
state
506.
State
I understand that.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, that wouldn't be impacted by, it's the side street.
Mostly it's if you get some big delivery trucks or like a moving truck
Cement
or-
truck.
or a cement truck or, like you said, the logging trucks. Like we had the big logging activity that went on. And they had to come through the city streets. So it's not super often, but it comes up from time to time. And like I said, the 4 at the locations where you come into the city, to a city street, there's 4 places where you come into the city limits. She said she can defend that, but it's just,
The only other street that I could see like a big truck turning on is D Street there, because it's so high, but
mhm.
Yeah, we did have a comment from the public.
I think Jill may have answered it because I had seen those log trucks coming past the park
Right.
and they paid a fee for that privilege. Okay, thank you, sorry.
Sizable.
They were covered, okay.
And they're still working on repairing any damage, so that's part of the permit process, is they have to repair any damage that it did do.
Mhm.
So,
There was a full-size Mayflower moving truck that came through town today on my streets back there. Had a 53-foot trailer,
Really?
driving, came through and back down D. And
I don't know how heavy
All
expenses
right, you
are.
said Ruth.
it happens.
Yeah, it does happen.
She's gonna pop into the phone booth and put on her cape and fire hat.
She'll fly on that. So, yeah, that's an example.
I think I'm good with the four spots like on B. It's defensible.
Okay.
Yeah, and the folks that are driving 15-ton plus trucks, it's their job to notice those signs.
Mhm.
That's so.
Okay. So 4. Okay. Your feelings, you have 4 signs as noted on the proposed page 2.
Yeah. And that would be fine because we don't have to worry about too much logging When they get done with McMurphy up there,
Yeah, they're done.
that'd be it. When they get done with up by my daughter's house, that'd be the end of that. They're gonna come out Military Road. and-
Yeah, they're-
Oh, yeah, it won't impact the city.
No, it won't be out of the city, so.
Okay, well, we need that in a motion, I suspect.
I move to approve installation of weight limit signs at all 4 entrance points to the city of Vader as designated in map B.
Okay, we've heard the motion, submitted by Mr. Daly to, as noted. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Shaw. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Excellent. The motion is carried. Believe it or not, we've included our agenda, so I would,
9, item
Oh,
number
I would
9.
have-
We gotta.
what the dickens, I am so fast.
Good
First
try.
I jumped it and
Triple
then,
feature
oh
tonight.
man, I wanted to pound that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, yes, we've got to deal with this RICO
please.
scanner
That
contract.
terrible spot problem with their copiers.
Yeah. We've been very happy.
I
with
think
what
we
we've
can
done.
pretty expedite this one.
Okay, so we need a motion though.
I make a motion to approve the RICO 60-month lease option for the RICO MP301 SPF, substantially as written in Exhibit A.
Mr. Shai submitted a motion as noted. Do we have a second for that motion?
I second.
Okay, and seconded by Mr. Wilson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion is carried. This meeting is considered adjourned at 7:37 p.m.
Council, just since I have you guys here, I promised the school board that I would remind you about or let you know about, you got a flyer in your stuff, that there's a meeting coming up. They're going to be holding it here. I believe it says, is it November 3rd? It will be here in the evening. They're trying to get as much community involvement and support. They're trying to put together a strategic plan for the school district, the Castle Rock School District, which our children are a member of. So I want you guys to come if you can, please.